I have called out in my first video that the seat post on my 360 is too short for me, and it has reached a point where it is causing me some knee and back pains on prolonged rides. So I procrastinated this for a while and decided that it is finally time for me to get this sorted. So to do this, I've ordered myself new handlebars, new seat posts, and downloaded an app called Coach's Eye to help me with the adjustments. I must emphasize that I'm not a bike fitter, nor do I have any professional experience in this area. I have, however, some reference data from previous bike fits which I could use for my own fit here. But do not worry if you do not have any previous bike fitting experience. I'll share some resources below, and hopefully those can help you get to a good place for your feet. So a warm welcome back to everybody in this channel, and for those of you who are new here, my name is Freddy. So let's get down to today's topic to get myself dialed in on my 360. Let's go! So here are some things I felt on my original riding position. The seat post is too low for me. This is the highest I could go on my original seat post, and the maximum I could straighten my legs as I pedal. So as you can see here, it stands at about 130 degrees after I fully extend my legs. Ideally, I should be aiming for about 141 degrees plus minus a few degrees. I think this will result in a lot of pedaling inefficiencies. Just imagine when you're trying to push an object but you can't extend your arms fully. I think the same concept applies here. That said, I could deal with the inefficiencies since I'm not going fast on this anyway. The problem I have with the low seat post is with the knee pains at the front. That has got to do with how much the knee is flexing at the top of the pedal stroke. So true enough, as I got myself measured up, I find the angle to be too low at 60 degrees. Ideally, I should be going for above 70 degrees. So this means to say that my legs are quite compressed before exerting the downward force on the pedal. So my layman logic of this is that it can cause a lot more shearing amongst the tendons around the knees, irritating it. So I'm not sure about this fact, but if you're a doctor or therapist that knows such things, please leave your comments below. I really love to know. Next is the upper back pain and numbness on my hands on longer rides. Again, I could clearly see why this is so in the original position when I see myself on this app. There's a slight roundness on my back, and it could be a sign that I'm leaning too far forward on my bar. It is strange because 84 degrees seems to be on the lower side. You know, the larger the angle means the further you are leaning yourself forward. The narrower the angle means you're having a more upright position. So it could be a sign that I'm leaning too far forward, but in any case, I'll listen to my body even though 84 degrees looks fine, and aim to reduce this angle to lean forward less on the bar, achieving a more upright position and take some load off the hands, hopefully to solve that numbness issue that I'm experiencing.
Alright, so as for the seat post, I went with the Joseph Cossack telescopic seat post to be paired with the Thomson Elite seat post. As you can see, this whole system is being formed up by two separate sections, which brings about a couple of advantages. I won't go too much detail into the product review because this is not the intention, but maybe I'll just share a point or two about the reason why I proceed with the telescopic option rather than the traditional long seat post option. Right, so the first reason why is because, as you can see, because this is being formed up by two separate sections, it really brings about a lot of versatility and margin for us to find the correct saddle height. So this is something that I really love about this system. The second reason why I went with this is because of the convenience it brings when we try to roll our bike around when it is being folded. So sometimes when we are standing up, it can get quite difficult for us to bend over, get a good grip of the saddle to push it around, and there's a need for us to raise the saddle. I know that's what the straps are for, but I am lazy, so I seldom really use the straps. So in order for me to get a good grip, I always have to disengage the seat post from the stopper to raise it in order for me to push it around. But what I really need to do with this system is simply to release the quick release so that I can move the second section to a desirable height, get a good grip of the saddle and just push the bike around. So I find this to be really convenient. There's no need for me to disengage the whole seat post from the stopper. So yeah, that's the two reasons why I proceeded with this option. And let's move on to the feet, shall we?
Okay, so on to the saddle height. There are many methods available to derive the correct saddle height, such as the Lemon method. But I like this heel to pedal method a lot more because it is really easy and it gives me a good starting point to fine tune from there. So let's watch how it works. All you really need to do is to get your heel on the pedal, straighten your legs and lock it. Once you've done that, you can place the ball of your feet onto your pedals to see if it gives you a nice little bend after you straighten it. Let's see. Yep, so I land at about 145 degrees angle using this method, and since I'm aiming for about 139 to 141 degrees, I should lower my seat post slightly. So yeah, pretty straightforward. After the initial adjustments, you will notice that the handlebar is slightly lower in relation to the new saddle height position, causing me to lean forward a little more. As you can see, initially my upper body is angled at about 56 degrees in parallel to the ground versus the current 49 degrees in parallel to the ground, putting more weight on the hands. So this definitely won't help with the numbness on the hands which I'm experiencing. The picture also shows a little bit more roundness at the lower back, so I expect this to hurt a little on longer rides if I don't switch out to a higher handlebar. So this is really my only choice to raise the height, because unlike traditional road bikes, there are few components like various angled stems of different lengths to help us get a good fit on the bike. But because of the design of this 360 or any Trifold bikes, I can only choose a taller handlebar and play with the tilt a little bit to determine the reach. So it won't be perfect, but I'll just try to get it as comfortable as possible within these constraints. So let's take a look at them, shall we?
Okay, I just completed removing the stock handlebar from the bike, which is on the left. You can see that the new handlebar on the right is significantly higher as compared to the stock bar, which is good because as we raise the seat height, it will be good for me to raise the contact point as well, so that I'm not overly aggressive. So let's move on to get them measured up to get a rough idea of how much difference there is in terms of height. So I've placed them across like a uniform line so that we can have like a benchmark for us to carry out that comparison. It's not going to be super accurate because there will be some sort of parallax error and all that, but let's just get a rough gauge. Okay, the stock one comes in at about, at this point is about 14 and a half. At this point is about 15, not too different. So about 14 and a half, 15, let's call it 14 and a half. Okay, so at this point, the new one would be at about 19. And at its highest point, it is at about 20. Alright, so it's not, it's about 4 to 5 cm difference depending on where we compare them. Yeah, so you can see that also the new handlebar is slightly angled. Let me just remove this from the tripod to let you see. It is slightly angled. Okay, which is really good because if it is angled, it kind of, depending on how we mount them, if we mount them this way, we are going to bring the contact point closer to us. If we flip it, we're going to bring the contact point further. So there's some adjustability here, which is good. Not much, but at least there is this option for me to play with to bring the contact point closer or further away from me. So as you can see, the finishing is also a lot nicer. It's more polished because this is made of titanium, so it won't rust. Okay, weight difference is not much because I don't think it's much, or at least it doesn't feel that much in terms of like weight difference. I didn't bring my scale with me, but it's pretty negligible. yeah, so let's get down to installing it. Okay, so I'm happy to report that it turned out well even when it's folded. The cable tension seems to be about right, not too tight and not too loose. There's some slack there, so it's pretty okay. I did a test ride earlier. There's no implication on the cable when it comes to shifting or braking, so all good there. When it comes to ground clearance between the handlebar and the ground, there's still about 1.5 fingers. So it should allow me decent level of clearance for me to roll the bike around well. As you can look at as you can see the seat post, it was what I was referring to earlier. There's no need for me to disengage the entire seat post now from the stopper. Right now, all I need to do is just to release that quick release for the second section, raise it to an appropriate level while I was standing upright, and I'm good to go. So happy how it turned out.
So this is how it looks like after having the taller handlebar installed. The upper body is definitely in a more relaxed and upright position, as you can see here. Well, this may not be for everyone if you would like to be in a more aggressive position to beat the headwinds, but for me, comfort is my top priority on my 360. So pretty sure this will help with the back pains and numbness, but we shall see.
Another important factor to consider when we are trying to fit ourselves will be how far forward or backward do we want our saddles to be. This is really easy to do. All we need to do is just to loosen the bolts on any seat post systems you may have, and it will loosen this clamp-like structure, allowing the rails to loosen up, and it allows us to move the saddles forward or backward, whichever way we want. There are some guidelines to this, so let's check it out, shall we?
Okay, this adjustment process is pretty straightforward. The general guideline is that your knees should not cross the ball of your feet or mid-section of the pedals if you adjust this correctly. So in this case, as you can see, the saddle is too far backward, causing the knee to way exceed where the mid-section of the pedal is. So during your adjustments, what you can do is that you can place a plumb line over your knee and see whether the line crosses the ball of your feet or midsection of the pedals. In this case, I simply use a charger which I have as a plumb line, so nothing fancy there. So after the adjustments, as you can see, the front of the knee cuts right through the midsection of the pedal, which is good. So yeah, pretty simple. Okay, and here we are. I got my position all dialed in, and I'm kind of happy how it turned out. I went for a short ride, and overall it felt like it takes lesser effort for me to pedal now. I also didn't experience any irritation or tightness on the knees as well. My upper body is also in a more upright and relaxed position, and it was very comfortable. I didn't feel like I was leaning a lot on the handles, nor did I feel any numbness on the hands. That said, I think there's a need for me to still go on a couple more longer rides to ascertain if there are any points that require fine-tuning. But largely, I think I'm in a pretty good spot. So let's check out some of the side-by-side comparisons of the before and after pictures of the feet, shall we? Let's go! We've come to the end of today's topic, and hopefully this process which I've shared, coupled with all the available information from professional bike fitters, are going to help you get into a good position that suits your riding style. And as always, my opinions for your own conclusion. Thank you so much for watching. See you again. Goodbye.